An old man sits on the rooftop of a great house in the city of Thebes. Below him, the Nile stretches silver in the moonlight. His hands are rough and scarred, the hands of a man who spent decades building things that were meant to last forever. Tomorrow, the pharaoh will dedicate a temple in his name. Not a pharaoh's temple, his temple, a commoner's name carved in stone beside the gods. But tonight, the old man is not thinking about temples. He is thinking about a mud brick house on the edge of a wheat field. He is thinking about a 5-year-old boy chasing birds away from the grain. He is thinking about the moment everything changed, the moment a stranger walked into his village carrying a reed pen and a roll of papyrus. This is his story. It begins in the dirt. You are 5 years old. You live in a small mud brick house with your mother, your father, your grandmother, and your 2 younger sisters. The house has 3 rooms, one for sleeping, one for cooking, and one for storing grain. The roof is flat, made of palm fronds and packed mud. At night, when the air inside is too hot to breathe, your whole family sleeps on the roof under the stars. Your name is Ka. You are a farmer's son. In ancient Egypt, this is not just what you do. It is what you are. Your father's father was a farmer. His father before him was a farmer. The land has belonged to the pharaoh for as long as anyone can remember, and your family works it in exchange for the right to live on it. You do not own anything. You are not poor by the standards of your time. This is simply how life works. Almost everyone you know lives exactly this way. Every morning, your mother wakes you before dawn. The air is cool and smells like the river. She hands you a piece of bread, round and dense and gritty with sand from the grinding stone. You eat it with a cup of beer, thick and sweet, almost like porridge. This is what everyone in Egypt eats for breakfast. Rich and poor, young and old. Beer is not a luxury, it is food. Your mother brews it herself from barley and old bread, and it keeps your stomach full through the long mornings in the field. Your father is already outside when you finish eating. He stands at the edge of the canal, watching the water level. Sometimes on festival days, a procession passes through the village. Priests in leopard skin robes carrying a golden statue of the god Ptah. Behind them, soldiers with bronze spears and leather shields. And once, you saw a nobleman carried in a litter by 4 men, his white linen robes so clean they glowed. He did not look at anyone in the village. It was as if you did not exist. Your father watched the procession in silence, then turned back to the canal. The Nile does not care who is rich and who is poor, he said. It floods for everyone. Everything in your life depends on the Nile. Every year around the same time, the river floods. The water rises slowly at first, then faster, until it spills over the banks and covers the fields in a thick layer of black mud. This mud is so rich with nutrients that when the water recedes, the soil is perfect for planting. The flood is a gift from the gods. Without it, nothing grows. With it, Egypt is the most fertile land in the known world. But the flood is also dangerous. If it rises too high, it destroys houses and drowns livestock. If it does not rise enough, the harvest fails and people starve. Your father watches the water the way a sailor watches the sky. It is the single most important thing in his life. You follow him into the field. Your job, at 5 years old, is simple. You chase birds. Flocks of sparrows and pigeons descend on the wheat and barley, and it is your responsibility to shout and wave your arms and throw small stones to keep them away. It sounds easy. It is not. The birds are relentless, and the sun is brutal. By midday, the air shimmers with heat, and the ground is so hot it burns your bare feet. At midday, you rest. Your mother brings bread, onions, and more beer. Sometimes there is dried fish. You eat in the shade of a palm tree. And your father tells you about the flood, about the gods, about the pharaoh who lives in a palace so large that a man could walk for a full day and never see all of it. You do not know if this is true. You have never been more than an hour's walk from your house. In the evenings, your family gathers on the roof. Your grandmother tells stories about the gods. She tells you about Osiris, the god of the dead, who was killed by his brother Set and brought back to life by his wife Isis. She tells you about Anubis, the jackal-headed god who guards the entrance to the underworld. She tells you about the weighing of the heart, how after you die, Anubis places your heart on one side of a golden scale and the feather of truth on the other. If your heart is light, you pass into paradise. If it is heavy with wrongdoing, a monster called Amit devours it, and you cease to exist. You listen to these stories every night. The stars are impossibly bright above you. Somewhere in the distance, a jackal howls, and you wonder if it is Anubis himself. The years pass slowly. You grow taller and stronger. By the time you are 7, you are working alongside your father in the field, pulling weeds, digging irrigation channels, harvesting grain with a small sickle. By 9, you can carry water jugs that weighed more than you did just a few years ago. Your hands are calloused. Your skin is dark from the sun. You are becoming a farmer, just like your father. But there is something different about you, and everyone can see it. While the other children play in the irrigation canals, you sit and watch the men who occasionally visit from the city. They carry rolls of papyrus and reed pens, and they make marks on the papyrus that seem to mean something. You do not understand the marks, but you're fascinated by them. You trace shapes in the dirt with a stick, trying to copy what you have seen. One afternoon, a man from the city notices you drawing in the dirt. He is a scribe, an official sent to record the harvest for the pharaoh's tax collectors. He watches you for a long time. Then he walks over to your father. They speak quietly. You cannot hear what they are saying. Your father looks at you, then back at the scribe. He is quiet for a long time. Then he nods. That night, your mother holds you and cries. Your father sits on the roof and says nothing. Your grandmother tells you one last story about the gods. In the morning, you leave your village. You are 9 years old. You will not come back for a very long time. The city of Memphis is the largest thing you have ever seen. You stand at the edge of it, holding a small bundle of clothes your mother packed for you, and you cannot comprehend what you are looking at. There are buildings taller than any tree in your village. There are streets filled with more people than your entire village holds, and those people are moving in every direction at once. There are merchants selling linen, copper tools, pottery, dried fish, perfume in tiny glass bottles, amulets shaped like scarabs and eyes and ankhs. There are soldiers in leather armor carrying bronze spears. There are women in white linen dresses with black coal painted thickly around their eyes. The noise is overwhelming. The smell is overwhelming. Everything is overwhelming. The scribe who brought you here leads you through the streets to a complex of buildings attached to the great temple of Ptah. This is the house of life, the school where scribes are trained. It is one of the most important institutions in ancient Egypt, because in a civilization where almost no one can read, the people who can read hold extraordinary power. There are about 40 boys here, ranging in age from 8 to 12. Most of them are the sons of scribes. Their fathers can read. Their grandfathers could read. Literacy is a family trade passed down like farming or pottery making. You are the only farmer's son. Some of the other boys look at you with curiosity. Others look at you with contempt. Your teacher is an old man named Amenhotep. He has been teaching at the House of Life for over 30 years. He has no patience for laziness, and his reed stick leaves welts that last for days. On your first morning, he hands you a wooden tablet, coated in a thin layer of plaster and a reed pen cut to a fine point. He dips his own pen in black ink made from soot and water and draws a single hieroglyphic symbol on his tablet, a seated man. He tells you to copy it. You try. Your hand shakes, the line wobbles, it looks nothing like his. He strikes your hand with the reed stick and tells you to do it again. This is your life for the next 8 years. You wake before dawn. You practice writing on plaster tablets until your hand cramps, then you erase the plaster with water and start again. You memorize symbols. There are over 700 hieroglyphic signs. Some represent sounds like letters. Some represent entire words. Some are determinatives, silent symbols placed at the end of a word to indicate its category. A seated man means the word refers to a person. A pair of legs means the word involves motion. You must learn them all. You learn 2 writing systems. Hieroglyphics, the formal script carved into temple walls and royal monuments, is slow and beautiful and sacred. Hieratic, the cursive script used for everyday business, letters, records, legal documents, is faster and more practical. Most of your training focuses on hieratic, because that is what you will use every day for the rest of your life. But you are also learning something more important than writing. You are learning mathematics. You learn to measure land, to calculate the area of fields and the volume of granaries. You learn to keep accounts, tracking how much grain comes in from the farms and how much goes out to the workers. You learn the calendar, a 365-day year divided into 3 seasons: the flood, the planting, and the harvest. The days are long and exhausting, but something is happening inside you. The symbols that once looked like meaningless scratches are becoming words. The words are becoming ideas. You can read a papyrus and understand what it says. You can write a sentence and know that someone 1,000 miles away could read it and understand your meaning. This is power. In a world where 99 out of every 100 people cannot do this, literacy is the closest thing to magic. By the time you are 14, Amenhotep has noticed that you learn faster than the other students. He begins giving you advanced texts, medical papyri that describe how to treat injuries and diseases, architectural plans that show how buildings are designed and constructed, legal codes that govern disputes over land and property. He is no longer just teaching you to write, he is teaching you to think. One evening, when the other students have gone to sleep, Amenhotep sits beside you in the courtyard. The sky is full of stars, just like it was on the roof of your family's house. He says something you will carry with you for the rest of your life. Any man can carry a stone, but a scribe carries words, and words, ka, outlast the stones. You are 17 years old when you complete your training. You can read and write in 2 scripts. You can calculate volumes and areas. You can draft legal documents and medical prescriptions. You are no longer a farmer's son. You are a scribe, and in ancient Egypt, a scribe can become almost anything. Your first assignment is not glamorous. You are sent to a quarry in the desert south of Memphis to work as a record keeper. Your job is to count stone blocks. Every block that is cut from the limestone cliff must be measured, numbered, and recorded on a papyrus roll. You must note its dimensions, its weight, and the team that quarried it. You must track how many blocks are produced each day and report the numbers to the overseer. The quarry is hot, dusty, and miserable. Hundreds of men work here, cutting stone with copper chisels and wooden wedges. They soak the wedges in water, which causes the wood to expand and crack the rock along precise lines. It is slow, back-breaking work. The men are organized into teams of about 20, and each team has a name they chose themselves. The Bulls of Amun, the Strong Arms of Re. They compete with each other to see who can produce the most blocks in a day. You are not cutting stone. You are counting it. The quarry workers glance at you with a mixture of respect and resentment. To them, you are a scribe, someone who sits in the shade while they break their backs in the sun. They do not know you were once one of them. You hear them joke about scribes, how they have soft hands and weak arms, how they could not last a single day swinging a chisel. You say nothing, but you remember your father's calloused hands and you do not feel superior. You feel lucky, but you are also watching everything. You notice that some teams are faster than others, not because they are stronger, but because they organize their work differently. You notice that the ramps used to move the stones are built at different angles, and some angles require less effort than others. You notice that the copper chisels dull at different rates depending on the type of stone being cut. You begin making notes, not the official records you are required to keep, but your own observations. You sketch designs for ramps that could be more efficient. You calculate how changing the angle by a few degrees could reduce the number of men needed to move a block. One day, the quarry overseer sees your sketches. He does not praise you. He sends your notes to the chief architect of the project, a man named Senenmut. who works in the capital. 2 weeks later, a messenger arrives at the quarry with instructions. You are being transferred to the construction site. You are 20 years old when you arrive at the temple complex at Karnak. What you see takes your breath away. An army of workers stretches across the landscape. Enormous stone columns are being raised into position by teams of men pulling ropes. Sculptors carve hieroglyphics into walls that are 3 stories tall. Painters mix pigments in clay bowls, reds and blues and golds and greens, and apply them to surfaces that will not see rain for 1,000 years. The workers here are not slaves. This is something that outsiders often misunderstand about Egypt. These men are farmers, just like your father, working during the flood season when their fields are underwater. They are paid in bread and beer and onions and meat. They receive medical care when they are injured. Some of them have been doing this for 20 seasons and take enormous pride in their work. They give their teams names, the beloved of Hathor, the companions of the king, and they compete fiercely to see who can set the most stones in a day. When a column is raised into position and stands perfectly vertical, the team that placed it cheers as if they have won a battle. You are assigned to work under Senenmut directly. He is a quiet man, intense and precise. He does not explain things twice. He gives you problems to solve, structural calculations, material requirements, labor schedules, and expects you to solve them correctly the first time. You do. And when you solve a problem he has been struggling with, he begins to trust you. Over the next 8 years, you rise through the ranks of the architectural team. You design a support system for a section of roof that the senior architect said could not be built. You develop a method for aligning columns using string and water levels that is more accurate than anything used before. You solve the problem of how to transport a 60-ton granite obelisk from a quarry 200 miles away without it cracking. You are 28 years old when Senenmut calls you to his private quarters one evening. He unrolls a set of papyrus plans on the table between you. The plans show a building unlike anything you have ever seen. The pharaoh wants something that will last forever, Senenmut says. I want you to help me design it. You do not sleep that night. The building you helped design is completed after 7 years of construction. It does not fall. It does not crack. The proportions are perfect. The sunlight enters the inner sanctum at exactly the angle you calculated, illuminating the statue of the god within in a pool of gold on the longest day of the year. The pharaoh sees it, and the pharaoh wants to know who designed it. You are summoned to the royal palace at Thebes. You have never been inside a palace before. The floors are covered in painted tiles showing fish and lotus flowers swimming in blue water. The walls are covered in gold leaf. The ceilings are so high that your voice echoes when you speak. Servants move silently through corridors that smell of frankincense and myrrh. Everything is designed to remind you that the person who lives here is not merely a king. He is a living god on earth. You are presented to the pharaoh in the great audience hall. You kneel on the cold stone floor and press your forehead to the ground. You do not look up until you are told. When you finally raise your eyes, you see a figure draped in white linen so fine it is almost transparent, wearing a collar of gold and lapis lazuli, holding the crook and flail crossed over his chest. He is smaller than you imagined. He speaks to you directly. This is extraordinary. Most people never hear the pharaoh's voice in their entire lives. He asks about your work. He asks about the alignment of the inner sanctum. He asks how you knew the angle of the sun on the longest day. You answer honestly. You tell him about the quarry, the observations, the calculations. You tell him about the farmer's village and the scribe who took you away. The pharaoh listens without expression. Then he gives you a title. You are now the overseer of royal works, one of the highest non-hereditary positions in the kingdom. You will report directly to the vizier, the second most powerful person in Egypt, second only to the pharaoh himself. You move into a house in the nobles' quarter of Thebes. It has 12 rooms, a garden with a pool, and servants. You, who grew up sleeping on a mud brick roof, now have a house with painted walls and linen curtains. In the corridors of the palace, you pass priests of Amun in their fine linen, their heads shaved smooth, their authority rooted in centuries of tradition. They look at you and see a commoner who has risen too fast. To them, the order of the world is sacred. The gods placed each person in their station, and a farmer's son standing in the pharaoh's audience hall disrupts that order. They are polite to your face. You learn quickly not to trust politeness in the palace. The generals are different. They respect results. Several of them have toured your construction sites, and they understand the logistics involved, the coordination of thousands of men, the supply chains, the problem-solving under pressure. To them, building a temple is not so different from fighting a campaign. They treat you with a rough, practical respect that feels more genuine than anything the priests offer. But the royal court is not just a place of privilege. It is a place of danger. Officials compete viciously for the pharaoh's attention. Priests guard their influence over religious matters and resent anyone who gains favor through secular achievement. Generals believe that military power should always outrank the skills of architects and scribes, and everyone, always, is watching for weakness. You learn quickly that the skills that served you in construction also serve you in politics. You observe, you calculate, you plan several steps ahead. You learn who can be trusted and who cannot. You learn when to speak and when to stay silent. The vizier, an old man named Rekmir, takes you aside one evening after a particularly tense meeting of the royal council. He pours you a cup of wine and says, "You build in stone, Ka, but in this palace, everything is built on sand. The pharaoh's favor shifts like the Nile. Do not build your life on it. Build something that will stand on its own." You never forget this advice. You are 40 years old when the pharaoh gives you the greatest commission of your career. He is aging, and he is thinking about his legacy. He wants a mortuary temple, a place where priests will make offerings to his spirit for eternity. And he wants it to be the most magnificent building ever constructed. You spend 2 years on the design alone. You study every temple that has been built before yours. You travel to the old kingdom sites and examine the pyramids, marveling at the precision of stones laid 2,000 years before your birth. You study how light moves through corridors, how sound carries in chambers, how the proportions of a building can make a person feel small and awed or welcomed and at peace. Your design is ambitious, a massive entrance flanked by colossal statues, a series of courtyards leading deeper and deeper into the complex, colonnades with columns carved to look like bundles of papyrus reeds, an inner sanctum that is completely dark except on 2 specific days of the year, when the rising sun aligns with the entrance corridor and sends a beam of light straight to the back wall, illuminating the face of a statue of the pharaoh seated beside the gods. For the pharaoh, this temple is not vanity, it is survival. The Egyptians believe that a pharaoh's spirit lives on only as long as people speak his name and make offerings in his honor. A temple is not a monument to ego. It is a machine for immortality. Every carved inscription, every painted scene, every offering table is designed to keep the pharaoh's spirit alive for eternity. When the pharaoh commissions this temple, he is not asking for a building. He is asking you to defeat death. The construction takes 12 years. 12 years of quarrying stone, transporting it across the desert, shaping it, and placing it with a precision that allows no more than a fingernail's width between blocks. 12 years of managing 10,000 workers, solving problems that have never been encountered before, and defending your design against officials who think it is too ambitious, too expensive, too different. There are moments when you doubt yourself, when a wall cracks during construction and must be rebuilt. When a flood damages the foundation and sets the schedule back by months. When a rival architect whispers to the vizier that your design is flawed, but you keep building, because you remember the words of your teacher, the old scribe Amenhotep. Words outlast stones, and the words carved into this temple will be your words. On the day the temple is completed, the pharaoh walks through the entrance for the first time. You stand in the shadows and watch. The proportions work exactly as you designed them. The pharaoh looks up at the towering columns, each one carved and painted with scenes of his greatest victories. He walks through the courtyards in silence. He enters the inner sanctum, where the statue waits in darkness. He turns to you. For a moment, the living God looks like an ordinary man, tired, aging, grateful. "This will stand after we are both gone," he says. You bow. You do not trust yourself to speak. You are 60 years old. You have served 3 pharaohs. You have built temples, monuments, and a royal tomb so secret that even the workers who carved it were sworn to silence about its location. Your body is not what it was. Your knees ache from decades of climbing scaffolding. Your eyes struggle in dim light. Your hands, the same hands that once chased birds from a wheat field, are stiff with age. But your mind is still sharp, and your reputation extends across the kingdom. You have taken on apprentices, young scribes who remind you of yourself, hungry and curious and unaware of how much they do not yet know. Some of them are farmers' sons, sent to the house of life by parents who recognize something different in their children, just as the scribe once recognized something in you. You teach them what Amenhotep taught you. You teach them to observe before they speak, to calculate before they build, to respect the materials they work with. You tell them that stone is not just stone. It has a grain, a character, a willingness to be shaped in certain ways, and a stubbornness about others. You must listen to it, but you also teach them something Amenhotep never taught you, because you had to learn it yourself. You teach them that talent is not enough, that the world does not hand you what you deserve simply because you deserve it, that a farmer's son must work 3 times as hard as a nobleman's son to earn half the recognition, and that this is not fair, but it is real, and knowing it is real is the first step toward overcoming it. You think about your father often. He never left the village. He never learned to read a single symbol. He spent his entire life watching the Nile and working the soil and sleeping on the roof under the stars. He died while you were building the temple at Karnak. A messenger brought you the news, and you sat alone in your quarters for 3 days. But he was the one who nodded when the scribe came asking. He was the one who let you go. He could not have known what you would become. He only knew that there was something in you that the village could not hold, and he loved you enough to let it go. One evening, you climbed to the roof of your house in Thebes. It is a fine house, the finest you have ever lived in. But you sit on the roof the same way your family did when you were a child. The stars are the same. The Nile is the same. Somewhere in the distance, a jackal howls. You are 65 years old when you die. You are buried with full honors in a tomb you designed yourself, modest by royal standards but beautiful in its proportions. The walls are painted with scenes from your life, the wheat field, the house of life, the quarry, the temple. Your name is inscribed beside prayers to Osiris. 200 years after your death, a pharaoh orders that your name be added to the walls of a temple you built. It is a rare honor, reserved for those whose work transcended their own lifetime. 1,000 years after your death, pilgrims still visit the temple and read your name carved in the stone. They do not know that you were once a barefoot boy chasing birds from a wheat field. They only know that you built something that lasted. The Nile flows on. The stars have not moved. And somewhere in the stone, your words are still waiting to be read.